Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is James, and for most of my marriage, I believed Melanie and I understood each other. We had been married long enough to know each other's routines. I knew she hated mornings. She knew I liked the house quiet before work. We had disagreements, but nothing that made me question the marriage. That changed on a Thursday evening. I got home around 6, loosened my tie, and found Melanie standing in front of the bedroom mirror. She was wearing a black dress. I stopped in the doorway. "You're going somewhere?" She looked at me through the mirror. "Dinner with the girls." I glanced at the dress. "Dinner?" She smiled. "Don't look so surprised." "I'm not surprised. I just thought you said casual." "I did. This is casual." She picked up a bottle of perfume and sprayed it on her neck. That caught my attention. Melanie usually wore perfume when we went somewhere together. She rarely bothered for dinner with friends. I didn't say anything. She grabbed her purse and checked her phone. A message came in. She read it quickly and turned the screen away. I looked at her. "Everything okay?" "Of course." She smiled again. Then she walked over, kissed my cheek, and said, "It's just a girls' night." I nodded. "Have fun." She paused for half a second, almost as if she expected me to ask another question. I didn't. She left a few minutes later. For the first hour, I thought nothing of it. Then, around 8:40, I opened the location history on the family account. We used it mostly because Melanie and I shared a car, and I sometimes checked where she had parked it. Her location appeared across town. I frowned. It wasn't the restaurant district. It wasn't near any of the places Melanie usually went with her friends. It was a residential neighborhood. I zoomed in. The location stopped at an apartment building on Willow Street. I stared at the address. I knew that street. 3 weeks earlier, I'd seen the same address in a message that popped up on Melanie's phone. She'd quickly locked the screen when I walked into the room. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. Now I couldn't ignore it. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time that night, I wasn't wondering whether Melanie was telling me the truth. I was wondering why she'd needed to lie. I opened the location history again and checked the timestamp. Melanie had arrived at the apartment building at 8:17. She hadn't stopped at a restaurant first. She hadn't met anyone at a bar. She had driven straight there. I thought back to that message I'd seen 3 weeks earlier. I hadn't caught the entire conversation, just the address and a first name before Melanie locked her phone. Grant. I remembered where I'd heard that name. Melanie had mentioned him once. "Grant from the office," she'd said. At the time, I'd barely paid attention. I searched for him on Melanie's social media accounts. It didn't take long. There he was, Grant Holloway. I looked at his profile, then back at the location. Same street, same building, same man. The pieces were starting to line up. I called Melanie. She answered after 2 rings. "Hey, where are you?" There was a short pause. "With Sarah and the others." "At the restaurant?" "Yeah." Her answer came too quickly. I glanced at the location on my phone. "Which one?" She laughed softly. "Why?" "I was thinking about getting something delivered to you." "Oh, we're at Bellini's." Bellini's was downtown. Willow Street was 15 minutes in the opposite direction. I didn't challenge her. "Okay," I said. "Enjoy your night." "Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." She sounded relieved. "I'll be home later." "Take your time." We hung up. I put my phone down. I wasn't angry yet. I was making a decision. I could confront her immediately, but that would only give her time to build another story. So I waited. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find, because I wanted to see what she would do next. At 9:26, the location changed. She had left the apartment. I watched the little marker move toward downtown. Then my phone rang. It was Melanie. "Hi," she said. "Hey, we're probably going to stay out a little longer." I looked at the location. She was now moving toward home. "That's fine. Don't wait up." "I won't." She paused. "James?" "Yeah?" "I love you." I stared at the screen. Then I answered honestly. "I know." We ended the call. About 30 minutes later, I heard her car pull into the driveway. I stayed in the living room. I wanted her to walk through that door and tell me the truth. She didn't, and that told me exactly what I needed to know. The front door opened at 10:01. Melanie stepped inside carrying her purse and wearing the same black dress she'd left in. She smiled when she saw me. "You're still awake." I said I wouldn't wait up. She laughed lightly. "I know. I thought you'd be asleep." I watched her put her keys on the table. "Did you have a good night?" Yeah, it was fun. Where did you go after Bellini's? Her hand stopped on the purse strap. After? Yeah. She looked at me. We stayed there for a while. I nodded. That isn't what your location history says. Her face changed. Only slightly. But I saw it. What do you mean? You went to Willow Street. She stared at me. I don't know what you're talking about. Apartment building on Willow Street, 817 to 926. She swallowed. Then she put her purse down. James, I can explain. Good. Explain. She took a breath. Sarah knows someone who lives there. Who? I don't remember his name. I almost laughed. You drove across town, spent more than an hour in his apartment, and you don't remember his name? That's not fair. Then tell me the truth. She looked toward the hallway. It was Grant. There it was. I stood up. Grant Holloway? She nodded. How long have you known him? From work. How long? A few months? I stared at her. Have you been to his apartment before? She hesitated. That hesitation answered the question. Once, she said. That's not what I asked. She lowered her eyes. More than once. How many? I don't know. You don't know? I wasn't counting. I stepped closer. Melanie, you lied to me about where you were tonight. You lied about who you were with. Now you're telling me you've been going to another man's apartment more than once. Nothing happened. I looked at her. Then why hide it? Because I knew you'd misunderstand. No, you knew I'd understand exactly what it meant. Her eyes filled with tears. I was confused. About what? She didn't answer. I waited. Finally, she whispered, About us. I nodded slowly. Then we're going to have that conversation. She looked at me. What conversation? The one where you tell me everything. She shook her head. James, please. No, I pointed toward the kitchen. Sit down. She sat. And for the first time that night, she looked genuinely afraid. I wasn't shouting. I didn't need to, because I already knew there was more. I just hadn't heard it yet. Melanie sat at the kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a glass of water. I stayed standing. How did it start? I asked. She stared at the glass. Grant and I started talking at work. About what? Nothing serious. Work, life, things like that. And then, she took a breath. He started texting me. When? A few weeks after we met. You gave him your number? Yes. Did you tell me? No. I nodded. Keep going. She looked up. We became friends. Friends don't usually require secret apartment visits. She flinched. I know. How many times did you go there? 4. 4? She nodded. And tonight was the 4th. What happened the other 3 times? Nothing. I stared at her. You expect me to believe that? I swear. Then tell me why you lied every time. She didn't answer. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. Melanie, I'm giving you one chance to tell me the whole truth. If I find out later that you left something out, we're done. No discussion. She looked at me for several seconds. Then she said, We kissed. I felt my jaw tighten. When? The second time. And the third? She looked down. We kissed again. I leaned back. And tonight? She was silent. That silence told me more than her previous answers. Melanie. Her voice dropped. We slept together. The room went quiet. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch her. I simply looked at her. How long? James, how long has this been physical? About a month. I nodded once. Then I asked the question that bothered me most. Why did you tell me it was a girls' night? Because I knew you wouldn't let me go. I looked at her. You're right about one thing. I wouldn't have agreed to you lying to me. She started crying. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew enough to hide it. She wiped her face. I was going to end it. When? Soon. That isn't an answer. She looked away. I stood up. I need to know one more thing. What? Did your friends know? She hesitated. Sarah knew I was seeing him. That was enough. I picked up my phone. I'll ask Sarah myself. Melanie's face went pale. Please don't call her. I looked at her. Why? She swallowed. Because she knows something else. I stopped. What? Melanie looked at me, and I knew whatever came next was going to change everything. I didn't call Sarah immediately. I looked at Melanie instead. What does Sarah know? Melanie wiped her face. She knows Grant and I weren't just talking. I already know that. She knows I was planning to leave. I stared at her. Leave me? She nodded. For him? I thought maybe. That answer was worse than I expected. So you weren't confused about our marriage. You were making plans to replace it. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She looked down. Grant made me feel different. Different how? Excited. Wanted. I don't know. I nodded. So you wanted excitement? Yes. And you thought sleeping with him would give you a better life. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She stood up. James, I made a terrible mistake. No, you made a decision. She stared at me. You're acting like I never loved you. I don't know what you felt. I know what you did. She stepped closer. I can fix this. How? I'll cut him off. I'll block him. I'll give you everything. My phone, my passwords, whatever you want. I shook my head. I don't want to monitor my wife. Then what do you want? The truth. She looked at me. I've told you everything. No, you haven't. Her expression changed. I continued. You said Sarah knew you were seeing Grant. You said you were planning to leave. But you haven't told me what Grant promised you. Melanie went completely still. I saw it immediately. There it is. She sat back down. He said he wanted something serious. And you believed him? I wanted to. What changed? She swallowed. Yesterday, I asked him what would happen if I actually left you. And? He said he wasn't ready for that. I almost laughed. So he wanted an affair, but not the consequences. He said he needed time. How convenient. Melanie covered her face. I thought he loved me. I looked at her. You risked our marriage for a man who wouldn't even promise you a future. She started crying again, but this time, I didn't comfort her. I walked to the counter and picked up my keys. Where are you going? To see someone. Who? Sarah. Her head snapped up. James, please. I opened the door. If she knows the rest of the story, I'm going to hear it from her. I stepped outside. Behind me, Melanie called my name. I didn't turn around. For the first time that night, I wasn't going to ask my wife for the truth. I was going to get it myself. Sarah Whitmore agreed to meet me at a quiet cafe near her office. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me. I didn't know whether I should tell you, she said. You should have. She lowered her eyes. I know. I sat across from her. How long did you know? About Grant? A few weeks? Did you know Melanie was sleeping with him? Sarah hesitated. Yes, I nodded. Did you know she planned to leave me? Yes. That answer didn't surprise me anymore. What else? Sarah looked toward the window. Grant wasn't planning a future with her. I already know that. No, you don't know the worst part. I waited. Sarah leaned forward. Grant was seeing another woman. I stared at her. While he was seeing Melanie? Yes. Does Melanie know? She found out yesterday. That explained everything. She asked him about leaving me. Sarah nodded. She told me she was ready to tell you everything and move out. Grant told her he couldn't promise anything. Then he stopped answering her messages. I leaned back. So tonight, she went to his apartment because she thought she could change his mind. Sarah nodded. That was the reason. I thanked her and stood. Before I left, she said, James? I turned. I should have told you earlier. You should have. I was afraid she'd hate me. I looked at her. She made her choices. You made yours. Then I left. When I got home, Melanie was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked at me immediately. You talked to Sarah. Yes. She closed her eyes. She told you. She told me enough. Melanie stood. I was going to tell you. When? I don't know. Exactly. She stepped toward me. James, I made a mistake. I know that now. No, you made a choice. Then another. Then another. I thought Grant loved me. He loved what he could get without having to build anything. She started crying. I was stupid. Yes, I said. You were. She looked shocked by how directly I answered. I continued. But that's not the reason I'm leaving. Her voice cracked. Then why? Because you decided I wasn't enough while keeping me around as your safety net. She shook her head. I never meant for it to happen like this. But it did. I picked up the folder I'd placed on the counter. She looked at it. What is that? Information about an apartment. Her face changed. You're moving out? Yes. Tonight? Tomorrow morning. For the first time, Melanie understood that I wasn't threatening to leave. I had already decided. The next morning, I was already awake when Melanie came downstairs. Two bags sat beside the front door. She stopped when she saw them. "You're really leaving?" "Yes." She looked at the bags. "You've already found somewhere?" "I signed the lease yesterday." Her face tightened. "Yesterday?" "After I found the location." She stared at me. "You planned this before we even talked." I prepared. "That fast? I don't need weeks to decide whether I want to stay married to someone who has been sleeping with another man." She sat at the kitchen table. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I thought you'd forgive me." I looked at her. "Why?" "Because you always did. That was before you gave me a reason not to." She looked down at her hands. "I thought you'd fight for us." "I did." She looked up. "When?" "Every day before you decided there was someone else." Her eyes filled with tears. "I still love you." "I believe you." She looked surprised. "Then why are you leaving?" "Because love isn't the only thing a marriage needs." She didn't answer. I picked up my keys. "James." I stopped. "Is there any chance?" I turned around. "Of what?" "Us." I thought about the question for a moment. Then I answered. "No." She closed her eyes. "Not even later?" "No. You don't have to decide forever right now." "I already did." She stood and walked toward me. "I'll prove I can change." "You can." She looked confused. "But you won't be here to see it?" "Correct." She nodded slowly. That was the moment she finally understood. I wasn't leaving to make her chase me. I wasn't waiting for her to choose me. And I wasn't trying to punish her. I was simply removing myself from a situation I no longer accepted. She looked toward the bags. "You really aren't coming back?" "No," she whispered. "I thought you'd always be here." I opened the door. "So did I." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. For once, Melanie was left with the one thing she had avoided for months: a life without the man she assumed would always be waiting for her. 3 months later, I was living in a different apartment across town. It wasn't a big place, but it was mine. I had settled into a new routine: work, the gym, dinner, sleep. No checking anyone's location, no wondering who was calling, no trying to understand why someone who said she loved me was behaving like she was single. Melanie and I had finalized the separation. Grant was no longer part of her life either. I heard through Sarah that he had ended things with Melanie shortly after I moved out. Apparently, once there was no secret left to protect, the excitement disappeared. I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel satisfied either. Then, one Saturday afternoon, Melanie called. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. "Hello?" There was a long pause. "James, what's up?" "I wanted to thank you." I frowned. "For what?" "For not destroying me." I leaned back in my chair. "I wasn't trying to destroy you." "I know." Her voice was quieter than I remembered. "I finally understand something." "What?" "You weren't controlling me." I said nothing. "I used to think you were too predictable, too serious. I thought I needed someone who made me feel alive. And now? Now I realize I confused excitement with happiness." I didn't respond. She continued. "I lost the one person who actually wanted a life with me." "That was your choice." "I know." Another silence followed. Then she asked, "Do you ever think about us?" "Sometimes." "Do you miss me?" I looked around my apartment, at the quiet kitchen, the clean counter, the keys sitting beside my wallet. "Not the way you want me to," she breathed out slowly. "I understand." We ended the call a minute later. I sat there for a while, then got up and made coffee. Months earlier, Melanie had stood in our bedroom wearing a black dress and told me it was just a girls' night. I had believed her. That was the last time I confused trust with ignoring what was right in front of me. She didn't lose me because she went to another man's apartment that night. She lost me because she had already decided I was someone she could lie to. And once I understood that, leaving wasn't revenge. It was the first honest decision either of us had made in a long time. Thank you for watching.